And we're live. Welcome, everybody, to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, as always, joined here by Aaron Larsoul. In a little bit, I am going to be joined by more of you. There are going to be more listeners kind of tuning in and, asking questions and, taking the show wherever it is they want to take it. I have a couple topics kind of lined up here, Aaron, for you and me to start the
Okay.
show. I
All
don't want
right.
to dive too deep into one of them so that we can save one for our conversation tomorrow on the hook. So
Okay.
you can choose between the Lakers' clutch struggles
Is that
or
clutch with a C or clutch with a K?
hey, you said it, not me. Um, but the struggles in the clutch with a C.
Okay.
Um, and or we could talk about a theory that I have about these scoring lines and these wild stat lines that are going up across the league, whether or not they are actually good for the league long term.
Hmm.
So which way would you like to take this thing?
Well, this I think is more of a Lakers specific show. Tomorrow can be the hook tends to wander a little more NBA. So let's do the Lakers clutch struggles.
Great, yeah, it's awesome because I have whiskey in front of me. So
I
we
do
can
not.
we can we can talk about the Lakers struggles so long as I have whiskey in front of me
Yeah.
when we
All
do
right.
so.
Fair enough.
All right, so the Lakers, I should have pulled up the math on this, but the math is not good. Just suffice it to say that the Lakers are the worst clutch team in the NBA among teams that are trying to win. Right? I think that's the fairest way to put it.
Fair
There are
enough.
teams
Yeah.
that are technically worse on either side of the ball than the Lakers, but they tend to be the teams that are in Wembanyama sweepstakes and actually get to keep their pick. Um, so one, I think we need to start with why they struggle the way that they do. Do you have a theory on where the struggles come from? Which side of the ball you're more concerned about? Which side of the ball drives you more crazy? And leads to the Lakers being as bad as they've been in those
So
spots.
yes, I think I do have some answers for it. But the which one do I think is a bigger deal and which one do I think drives me more insane are two different things. The one that drives me more insane is the defensive end, but I think that is just an Anthony Davis thing. The defense is bad with, I mean, clutch time and non-clutch time, so that's more frustrating because the breakdowns are so obvious. But I think all of that is solved by Anthony Davis, who has been doing more and more on the court and looks like there's going to be an early February return. So that one is more frustrating to me, but I think it's also more easily solvable. And I think there's like a direct reason for it. The defensive personnel just isn't very good without
Yeah.
Anthony Davis, and it's compounded by the fact that Anthony Davis is one of the best handful of defenders in the league. But one of the things he is also best at as a defender is cleaning up other people's mistakes. As for the offense, I'm less optimistic about the offense turning around. And I think there are very obvious and reasonable reasons why the offense struggles in clutch with a C moments. Um, the main one is, I mean, frankly, there's not a lot of offensive talent on the roster either, and there is specifically a dearth of shooting on the move. There are some guys that can make. I mean, Pat Bev has been terrible this year, but he is a decent catch and shoot 3-point guy. Troy Brown's fine. Um, LeBron has been fine in the past. He hasn't been this year, etc. But there is not somebody that makes defenses go, oh shit. And there is not somebody, even those guys who are competent 3-point shooters like Pat Bev are not guys that do so on the move. They're not catch and shoot on the move guys, and that limits what you can do and how much you can get a defense to adjust and move around. So I think that's a problem. But the two biggest problems are, one, the way in which, and they're all related, but the way in which the Lakers get their buckets is through transition. The Lakers are the second fastest paced team in the league. They get out in transition, get easy buckets. They've been playing some much more athletic lineups recently, and that has included guys and combinations, more importantly than guys that are athletically, you know, NBA players, but in some of them even athletically gifted, but guys that are going to thrive in transition. Russ is going to obviously be better. I mean, everybody, offense is always more efficient in transition, but
Yeah.
Russ specifically, Wenyen specifically, even Thomas Bryant, those are guys that are going to even the delta between their normal half court production and their transition production is the delta is even greater than for normal NBA players. And the game just isn't played that way in the final few minutes. People are trying harder on defense. Coaches manage the game more, micromanage the game more offensively, more timeouts.
Not this one.
More timeouts, more set plays.
Most coaches is how we'll put that.
There's been times where there's been a lot of frustration from me, even from LeBron, of like, why isn't LeBron getting a touch here? Because he is the best half court player ever, the best decision maker ever, one of the best passers ever. And some of that I think is miscommunication. I think some of that is Russ trying to do too much on his own. But another part of it is LeBron looks tired at the end of games and settles for jumpers that are not going in right now because he's tired, and it's easier to shoot jumpers than to, take on 8 guys in the paint, right? Because there isn't the spacing. But also, I think part of it is his age. Even in his best moments, even in his freshest moments, he is not able to beat people off the bounce as easily as he once was. He can still bully his way, but he is not able to just quick first step, just beat guys off the bounce as often and as easily as he has in the past. And then when you're bullying your way in there, again, that leads to more fatigue. So I think it is a LeBron fatigue thing. The game slows down, and the Lakers are not personnel wise really equipped to play in a half court slugfest and some decision making stuff. So I think all of those factors have combined for the offense to be what you have seen thus far.
Yeah, everything that you said, I would add to it that the Lakers, like, Darvin isn't going to bench Russ as often as he kind of maybe should. It'll happen every so often. It has happened every so often in games where Russ has been abysmal or a player has just been so good that you can't pull that guy off of the court. And the problem with Russ being on the court is, like you talked a second ago, about the frustrations that, LeBron will have or that we'll have watching, where you have possessions that LeBron doesn't touch the ball. Mm-hmm. Well, that's because if Russ is on the court, the only way that he can have value out there on the court is to have the ball in his hands, because he's going to be actively detrimental when he is out there and he doesn't have the ball in his hands. They don't, for whatever reason, want to go to 2-man games with him and LeBron. We just haven't seen that very much this year.
I mean, I have an answer for that. I have an answer for why.
Why?
Russ just won't set a screen. He just won't.
Well,
he will not. So, like, if it's not something Russ is going to do or comfortable doing, you're not going to get the best results that you would otherwise, because that would be an effective thing. Russ, for all of his faults, is a very good passer. And if Russ sets a screen and 2 guys end up going to the ball with LeBron, Russ 4-on-3 is a very effective thing.
Yeah. You would think.
But we've been saying now for 2 years, like, when is Russ going to screen for LeBron? And it doesn't happen.
Like, that's the frustrating part of this, right? Is Russ is in there for the sake of politics because he is Russell Westbrook, and he's been like,
that's part of it.
He's been fine, but like, if you're going to have somebody in there who's already an iffy fit, and you're going to have that player in there because of some of the politics behind it, and then that guy isn't going to do the things that you need to be successful out there, like, there just can't be all of that going on at the same time.
They aren't.
It's like the Lakers, to the point you made a second ago, as far as the issues that the Lakers have on both sides of the ball. They aren't talented enough to like trim down their margins by way of locker room politics or guys not being willing to do these other things that make them better.
I think, yes, that's fair. That's fair. But without Lonnie and without Austin Reeves and Troy was out for a while, like, okay, fine, but for whom, right? It's kind of like the all-star snub thing. Like, all right, well, so-and-so should be in. Okay, well, who are you taking out? Like, if you want to take Russ out, who's the alternative?
Last night, I would
presently
have had,
who's the alternative?
last night I would have had Troy in there for either Russ or
And
Pat.
by the way, here's the other thing. Everybody has been on my head about, because I've been more supportive of Pat than the masses, I guess. Right. But everybody's been telling me how awful Pat has been, and everybody wants Pat bench too. So like, okay, fine. Who?
You gonna do the Hoosiers 4-on-5 thing?
Right. My team's on the floor. Yeah, we're gonna have Russ. We're gonna have Russ go to practice. Well, actually, there's no shoot around tomorrow. I was gonna say we were gonna have next practice. We're just gonna have Russ and Pat Bev out there with no ball. They're just gonna be chairs out there. We're doing Hoosiers.
Well, look. So you're saying they're just gonna have Thomas Bryant out there? Like you just.
There are times where I feel like a chair might be. Can you give me like a 6'10" chair? I think that might defensively. Like sometimes
the throne from Game of Thrones would be more effective. Than Thomas
and that looks
Bryant.
Dangerous too. The throne from Game of Thrones
literally
fouling out. Yeah, that's fouling out in like 4 minutes. Just standing there. People
alert
run
for those who
it,
didn't watch House of Dragons or whatever. Literally killed multiple kings at this point.
Getting all kind of diseases.
Let's open this up. We'll come back to that topic over the course of our conversation here. We'll open this thing up to Alexis, it looks like, who is here. Thank you very much, Alexis, for joining us again. How you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Welcome. You have a question, comment, Orca fact? What are we thinking here?
I have a question. So with Russ, like past 2 weeks or so, roughly, Coach Ham has been running a Russ, Schroeder, Bryant or Gabriel, like wings lineup. How well do you think the
wings, air quote on wings,
wings,
right,
try, or some Reese or whatever. So, so how well do you think the double driving of Schroeder and Russ lineup has been working? Since Ham started this.
I'm not a fan of the combination. I just think both of those guys need the ball in their hands, and neither guy, the defense, like with Russ, the defense openly laughs when he's open from three. With Schroeder, it's like, I guess I'll get a hand up, right? You need one of those guys to get the defense to kind of move. So if you're going to do that, you need like Brown out there. I think eventually Austin Reeves is gonna get to a point where defenses will move to try to get him off the 3-point line. Weirdly, Cole Swider does this. Like it was the weirdest thing earlier this year.
I don't think it's weird at all. He's a shooter.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just saying that like usually it takes a while for that rep to be developed, right? Like he's a undrafted two-way guy, basically, right? So usually like that kind of player, even if he can shoot, usually it's like, let's make him prove that he can shoot before we move. But they need, if you're going to have those two guys out there, you need somebody who moves the defense.
So I disagree kind of about Swider. I think it's more that it takes a while for a scouting report to change in the face of new information. When you come in the league and everybody knows the only reason you're in the league is because you knock down jumpers, you'll get some respect. But I do agree with your earlier point. And Alexis, this is kind of why I'm not a huge fan of that. The double driving that you mentioned is because
it's just traffic. It's
for
LA
that to,
traffic.
Right. For that to be fair, it's a 4:05 on a Friday afternoon. For that to be effective, you do either have to get the defense to move if that's moving to somebody else, or you have to get the defense running out at you, trying to run you off the 3-point line to open up some of those driving lanes. Both of those guys, they're pump fake. Nobody cares. They're not getting run off the line aggressively enough that they can use their quickness, ball handling skills to get in the lane and do anything. So I think, you mentioned it, Alexis. You said, it's about that lineup is about 2 weeks old. What does that coincide with? That it coincides with Lonnie not being available and Austin not being available.
Yeah.
So again, like I was just discussing with Anthony, sure, I don't love it. That is a lineup that's can be effective in transition, right? Dennis is good in transition. Rush is good in transition when, get out and run with them. But if you want a different lineup, okay, fine. Whom? And what is the flag? Is that a 3 on the flag there to your left? It's your right on the screen, but yeah, what is that?
So That's a pansexual pride flag.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Love it.
And you mentioned the 3. I have my AD.
There you go.
Jersey on it. So
there you go. Well, we will be expecting him back. I would imagine he's probably got he's going to miss, I think, another 3 or 4 games.
Weeks, yeah.
It should be, I think he'll be back. Even like the early report was early February, which is kind of nebulous. I think it's probably at the beginning of February.
There was some reporting of like late January, and that feels like a bit of a rush. So the whole situation with AD is super weird to me. Like again, I'm not a doctor. Maybe I'll bring Jen in here. She's just in the other room. But it's super weird that he would miss 20-something games, never wear a walking boot, never require crutches, never look like he's in any actual pain, like on the bench. Like the whole thing, travel with the team with an injury. You would think that like doctors would be a little worried about inflammation on a plane with the whole thing. I'm not like going out here and saying like he's not hurt, whatever. Like I wouldn't.
Are you going tinfoil hat on us?
Not a doctor, but like the whole thing. Like, Aaron, you have to admit, like it's a little weird, right? Little weird.
Well,
I mean,
he's
go ahead,
been
Alexis. Go ahead.
shooting around, lately.
He's been not doing contact stuff yet, but he is. Yes, and Alexis, I see a question up here. Is that?
Yeah.
I can read it.
If Bev, if Bev is so bad, like everyone says, then how are we going to trade him? Kuz talk once again going.
Yeah, I mean, he's making, if he's so bad, then, how are we going to trade him for anything of value?
So here's what I will say. I'll be kind of vague here. Okay, I will be not vague first, and then I will be kind of vague. The not vague part is calls have been made about Kuz, and Washington is telling everyone he's simply not available.
Yeah, and now Hachimura is now.
Can that change? Yes. But as of now, that's what they're saying. Is that posturing? Is that real? They would like to re-sign him. Does Kuz want to stay there? Obviously, there's numerous factors. But as it relates to Bev as a trade piece, and this is also true of other guys, right? This is true of maybe Kendrick Nunn. This is true of Russ. All of the expiring assets that the Lakers have. Other teams are not trading for those guys the player. They are trading for those guys the contract. And whatever the Lakers would use to sweeten that deal, whether that's a second-round pick, 2 second-round picks, a second in the first, 2 firsts, whatever it is, those guys are not being traded to go to the other team and play because the other team wants them on the floor.
So,
do you think, Aaron, that he's been like?
Do you mean meaning Pat Bev?
Yeah, Pat. Like
okay.
with how bad that Pat and he's gotten better, I think, as the year has gone on. But. Do you think he's been bad, like in a vacuum bad, and he's just bad now? Or do you think there is something that can be done that can get more out of him? Because I was thinking about this last night, and I kind of wonder if their approach of having him as like the 3-and-D wing has actually made him worse. Like it's making him work really hard, and a lot of his shots have, they haven't quite had the right rhythm to him. They're coming up short. Like, I wonder how much of how hard he's having to work defensively is impacting him on offense.
So I think he has enough of a track record around the NBA that even though he's been not so good this season, I think it's too early to say that he's cooked. The shooting was always a thing that I figured was going to turn around because he was terrible at the beginning of the year and has, made some shots since then. And has a track record as a good catch and shoot guy. So that the jumper I'm not worried about. I do think there is a toll to be paid when you are having to guard up a position, or in his case, guard up 2 positions, but it's not something he's never done before. He was the primary defender on KD on, Clippers Warriors playoff series. He's guarded Jason Tatum. He's guarded Luka. So this is not something that he is not used to, maybe not to this duration and with this frequency, but he has been a guy that has been deployed on guys that are much bigger than him that we would consider, the alpha predator wings. So this is not completely foreign to him. I don't think he's cooked. I think he's been bad this year, but I don't think he's cooked. I think he has enough of a track record to get the benefit of the doubt for longer than, whatever it's been. I guess the season's been like exactly 3 months now. I think there's still some benefit of the doubt that he is probably owed.
Yeah, the reason I ask is like I don't think there's enough time for him to turn things around here with the Lakers. I think eventually, like, he is the trade piece, right? That is getting dangled out there. I think even above Russ, in terms of names who come up most often in trades, it's Pat, it's Nunn, and then it's
Yeah, but
probably
there's a reason for
Russ.
that it doesn't have to do with them as players, right? Like
No, no,
it's
no.
much harder
I'm
to
not.
come up with,
Yeah,
whatever, 40 whatever $million you need in a Russ trade.
yeah.
Right? There's lots of
I'm not
guys can
saying
be
that like
Pat
the
Bev.
Lakers are sitting there like we need to move Pat. Like I just think like in terms of because like we all agree that the Lakers have to make additions to this team, subtractions from the guard group, and Russ most easily fits into trades that can have positive impact with the amount of money that he's owed this year. It's just kind of too bad that like I could see him getting to a situation where he's asked to guard those guys like, you know, 80% less than he's being asked to. Every time he steps onto the court, he's having to work his actual ass off against
Oh
like the
no,
other
hey.
team's best
Pat,
player.
Pat got he got a little ass left. He still has a little left.
No, man, like I don't
It's
know if
gone.
it's just like
Gone.
you look at him now,
Flat
it's
as a
just
board,
like
huh?
yeah, white girl Instagram just like it's just
Just nothing, huh? You don't know which side is the front and which is the back with Pat, huh? That's what she's saying.
and it's just it's been I guess when I watch somebody play significantly worse than they've been over their career, and you have this kind of precipitous drop off, you start to ask questions as to why. And I think a lot of times we tend to overlook the impact that a player's role can have on what that player is doing or what that player is capable of. And I think in this case, the Lakers have leaned a little too far into him as the 3-and-D wing
Yeah.
than is productive for him at that
So
role.
his offensive role is pretty similar to what it's
Yeah,
always
yeah,
been,
it's
which is why I'm not really concerned about like he's a good shooter. His shot will go in. I do think there's something to what you're saying about defense though, and there is a difference between what you are best at and what you are capable of. Right,
Mhm.
he is best as an on-ball bulldog, terrorizing other point guards, picking them up 94 feet from the beginning of the game, making their life miserable. But because of the Lakers roster, and because he is capable of guarding up two
Yeah.
positions,
Yeah.
he is being forced to more than he probably should be.
Yeah.
But that's a roster thing. I don't think Pat is cooked. But Alexis, why you should be talking more. We're going to have a whole show to talk tomorrow again.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring up the Russ and Schroeder double drives again.
Mm-hmm.
Like last season, for example, when Harden and Kyrie were on the court together, they would just take turns. I figure, if Russ and Schroeder can do that, driving and, setting up players, that would be effective and they would save energy later into the game.
So it's a good theory. My pushback on that is that Brooklyn team. Well, first, Harden and Kyrie are a lot better than Russ and Schroeder. But the other part of it is there's more room for them because they're being flanked by Kevin Durant, Joe Harris, not last year, but Seth Curry, Patty Mills, guys that their jumper fear. There's fear in the defense's heart when those guys are taking jumpers. And so if you beat the difficulty for Russ and Schroeder, who are both good to very good drivers, but it's the same kind of issue with LeBron. Even if you beat that first guy, you're going to run into at two, sometimes even three guys more defenders in your way because they're not worried about anybody on the perimeter. Yeah, I think it is a good thought and it's a good theory. I just think with this Lakers roster in practice, it's a little bit more difficult.
So I think for my ideal situation with Russ and Schroeder on the court, you have Lonnie at the 3 when he comes back. You have probably Gabriel and Thomas Bryant, for the 4 and 5. So you still have that spacing and, the size as well. You're definitely Bryant and Gabriel would have to be switching on defense and everything for, rim protecting because Bryant, as we saw the past few games, he's not a rim defender.
No.
So
You can take rim out of that statement and you're still right.
True.
He's not gonna guard anybody.
Yeah, but that would be my ideal lineup, when Braun's not on the court. And you would probably just swap out Gabriel for Braun.
I think that's yes. I think that is. It kind of illustrates, right, some of the hurdles that the Lakers have to overcome, because I think your lineup is about as good as you're going to do, and it's also not very good.
Yeah, which is why we need to make a trade.
So who do you want? Who's your number one target? Who do you want?
Everybody knows it. It's Kuz. It's Kuz and Wright. None in Bev, but probably now with Washington, it's probably going to be Hachimura and Wright with like Bev and
DeLon Wright. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, DeLon Wright. Yeah. So
all I can say without getting anybody or me, I guess, in trouble is what the league is being told is that Kuz is not available and Hachimura is.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying too.
The Hachimura thing is interesting. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's because of my own confirmation bias, and there's an outcome to this that I'm hoping for. Right, I'm hoping that Kuz is the one who becomes available. But the Hachimura thing seems really interesting to me. That it, like, much in the same way that the Miles Turner extension talks. Like, I swear we'll extend them. We'll do it. We promise this time. We pinky promise we're gonna do it this time. And like, I don't know if anybody has noticed, nothing has really come out of it. Like, I feel like the Hachimura thing is very much the same thing. It's like, we promise we are not trading Kuzma. We are not gonna trade him for anything less than a first rounder. But we are not gonna trade Kyle Kuzma under any circumstances whatsoever. And to prove that, here's a lightly used Rui Hachimura, who, like, we wouldn't really care about moving anyway. But still, here is this other thing. It's just that we are in peak posturing season. We are in peak lying season. And, like, the Turner extension talks and the Hachimura trade talks both reek to me of teams lying their asses off. But those teams, no asses. Those executives, no asses whatsoever. Yeah. Everybody's just losing their ass.
Pat Bev's working his ass off there, lying their ass off. Okay.
Yeah. So Hachimura is restricted. So if we trade for him, I think we can just, match whatever we get. So, and offer for him.
Yes.
So.
The concern with that, though, and like the same is true of some other guys that are rumored to be being considered by the Lakers, is that that's part of the calculus too, because then you're not only giving up whatever it takes to get those guys also cut into cap space for next year. So whoever you maybe would be able to get but now can't get is, the opportunity cost of those moves, or those acquiring those players, has to be considered also.
I just can't get myself interested in the cap space. It's not enough for me to, like, write home about. I know that it's a talking point. I know that cap space is, like, every casual fan's favorite word, because you can go out there and you can say, like, oh my God, look at all these things we could possibly do with our cap space. $30 million in cap space isn't enough to reshape the roster, especially if you're looking to sign, because I know the Lakers are interested in pursuing somebody who would use up a chunk of that cap space anyway. So you're going to sign a player who's probably making about 25 to 30 million. And then you're filling out the rest of your roster with minimum guys, and you're going to use some of the early bird rights on Wenyen and Austin to re-sign them. And the roster will look a lot like this year's roster in terms of culture. It's not something that inspires much intrigue to me. The other thing too is, if the Lakers were to go that route of cap space, I know there's this thought that the Lakers could trade for a star who becomes disgruntled, and they could trade for that star into their cap space, but they aren't going to have anybody on their books for $10-ish million to trade for a $40 million player into that $30 million of cap space. So
do you think a sign and trade is possible with, like, Russ, and we trade Bev, Nunn, and like this, this season for someone?
But that would
their bird rights.
They could, but that would require a team to be interested in Russ, right? That would require a team to be interested in, Reeves, I guess, or Winyan or Bryant or Lonnie. Like it would require another team on the other end of that line. It just goes right back to, like, it is a trade that needs to be agreed to. It's not a free agent signing that is a little bit more. It doesn't involve another team. So yeah, I don't know. I still personally would rather trade Russ, Nunn, Reeves, even Lonnie, for guys on longer contracts, so that if you do get one of these situations where a star becomes disgruntled, you can trade multiple contracts that are on your books for that player. And if you don't use these picks, right? If you don't use the 27 and 29 picks, and you get to draft night, then you have the contracts necessary to make that trade for a star, and you have potentially 3 first rounders to work with, and that's a route that seems more practical to me than $30 million to fill out essentially 13 roster spots.
Sure, but you, among a lot of other people, and I'm not saying you're wrong, have been clamoring for like a more balanced roster, right? A bunch of guys in that 10, 12, $15 million range. Mm-hmm. And one way to do that is with the cap space. So that cap space doesn't have to be used on a star. It can be, it can be used for a $35 million player or a $32 million player, depending on where the cap falls. It can also be used to sign 3 guys at, here's one guy at 9 million, here's one guy at 12, here's one guy at 15, whatever, however the math works out. There is optionality with the cap space. And again, I would probably prefer what you are suggesting also, but a trade has to materialize that is worth it. And from the discussions I have been a part of, that does not exist yet. Doesn't mean it won't in 3 weeks, because as you said, lots of people are lying. And as I have said, since you and I started with the hook, whatever, 16 months ago or 18 months ago or whatever it is now, deadlines create activity. So of course everybody's lying now, because they're trying to get their Rudy Gobert trade.
We're not lying. We do not. We come on here, we tell the truth. All of it. It hurts us. It makes me drink whiskey, but we tell the truth. Alexis, do you have any more questions or anything before we? I would like to kind of circle back at some point to the clutch discussion. What are your thoughts on the the Lakers clutch offense kind of sputtering out at the end? Is there anything that you're noticing that drives you bonkers in the same way that I noticed, Aaron, I found my first gray hair the other day. I'm 36. Yeah.
You don't
36.
know how old you are. Okay.
I'm old
Cool.
enough to not know how old I am.
All right. Well, that's why you're gray.
I'm 36 years old. I found my first gray hair, and see, there you go. Alexis said that's the kind of thing that happens when you watch enough of the Lakers. They just sprout up. We watch them in the clutch, and then, like Russell. Oh my God, that shot that Russ took at the end of, was it the third quarter? It was the third quarter last night.
Yeah, it was.
Where the Lakers had momentum. They had cut it down to like an 8-point game, and he holds the ball for 15 seconds and takes a left wing 3. That was my first gray hair. I'm just going to name that gray hair Russ. Like, I thought I was going to have to name it Miles or Avery, but it's
the pump fake into the shot clock violation air ball didn't do it for you.
Yeah, and then like the pump fake into the jump into the throwing off the defender.
See, that actually sucked the gray hair back in. That made me laugh so hard. It was like I was young again.
This is depressing. Alexis, tell us your Lakers fan origin story. This is depressing. I don't.
Okay.
I like the hat, by the way.
Thank you. I got it from Fanatics a couple months back. Not sponsored.
We got it from a what is it, team merchandise store. We are not here saying names of places.
My fan origin story. So I was born in the 80s, and Showtime and everything, and I was about five, six, seven, when I became a Laker fan. And,
Your birthday is
probably,
December 31st, 1989. You are as young as possible to have still been born in the 80s.
yeah. I was born at the dawn of the 80s. So, yeah.
Erin's just trying to help you out, but no. She refused the screen. She's like, "Go ahead,
Right,
I got
exactly.
this. I
She
got
waved
this
me
ISO.
off. She looked like Russ. Hey, I'm LeBron over here. She's Russ waving me off.
I got this, Bron. We're good."
So, yeah. So in the 80s, I was really big fan of Magic and Showtime, and Michael Cooper is probably my favorite role player of all time for the Lakers. And that 87 finals, was legendary. And it was legendary, and I've been a fan pretty much ever since.
Are you in LA?
I'm currently in Mesa, Arizona. I used to live in San Bernardino, California.
Well, if you ever make your way to a Lakers game, make sure to let me know. I'll buy you a drink if you consume alcoholic beverages.
I do sometimes socially.
All right, then I sometimes will buy you one.
Look, technically speaking, we all sometimes do, right? It's not nobody's ever like, I always drink.
Well, well.
Yeah.
All right, Alexis, I'm gonna let you go here. We did get Carlo in here. Thank you very much for spending that much time with us. That was a blast.
Not a problem. All right.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
All right, Carlo, how you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm good. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing
Well,
good.
thank
I'm
you.
doing good. Your hair is noticeably not gray.
Fantastic.
To bring up the conversation that we just had. All right, so we were talking about the Lakers' clutch offense, defense, just general struggles. There's just Aaron, do you think is there anything that the Lakers do in clutch that you have confidence in? I don't think I have any.
I still have confidence in LeBron, even though it hasn't gone well.
I don't know about that, to be honest. I don't know.
Hey, man, yeah, I keep saying this: doubt LeBron at your own peril. Like one day, Father Time is going to win, but it's not yet.
Look, man, Father Time is technically is really there at the last 5 minutes of the game.
I'm a lifelong LeBron fan, and him in the clutch this season is like, it's making me beyond this. If this hair color once is gone, it's probably gonna have like 5 gray hairs because of LeBron.
You're gonna be searching them out like Anthony.
LeBron James not being able to drive. It drives me nuts. I mean, oh my. It's like big, small, it doesn't matter. He just won't drive. I don't understand why. I don't get it.
So I do have, like Aaron mentioned this a second ago about LeBron's mortality, right? That Father Time does come for us all, but I think this is kind of a foundational issue with the Lakers during the LeBron era, that they keep thinking that the way to make life easy on LeBron is to surround him with other creative players, other creators, right? They had finishers in the year that they won. They had nails. LeBron was the hammer, and they had nails. But instead of that, after winning the championship there, they went out and got like a whole bunch of screwdrivers, and they got like a mallet. And they still don't have anything that needs to actually get this thing done in the clutch. And I think, you watch some of the lineups out there, and like Aaron was talking about how there just aren't very many options right now. It's so many creators who don't help finish anything, and like I was watching last night, the Lakers were running pin down screens for Max Christie because he was the closest thing to a finisher out there. They brought Kendrick Nunn in because he's the closest thing to a finisher that the Lakers have. For whatever reason, they didn't want to play Troy Brown. He's technically kind of sort of a finisher out on the perimeter. But like, because of the way that the Lakers have approached building the roster around LeBron, they have made it, on top of some of the mortality stuff, some of the just aging stuff, they have made it really difficult for him to get to the basket. And like the thing with LeBron, and this has been the case for him since he got into the league, it was the source of criticism and has been a source of criticism for a lot of his career. He is always going to make the right basketball play. Like he is always going to look at the situation in front of him and say, this is the most efficient thing to do. And when he looks in front of him and he sees 4 defenders in the paint, he's going to say, well, there's no point in me driving into the paint. And then he looks on the perimeter and he sees Dennis Schroeder, Russell Westbrook, like Wenyen Gabriel. Like when he sees those guys surrounding him on the perimeter, he's going to say,
oh, God.
The most efficient thing to do here is my pull-up jumper. Like that is the most efficient basketball play to make. And it's the worst. It's the best of a bunch of bad options. So until the Lakers give him better options to work with, I think we're going to keep seeing that really frustrating kind of standstill 3-pointer from either side of the 3-point line.
So one caveat real quick, and then Carlo jump in. To put context in this, yes, you're right. There have been more ball handlers, creators on Lakers, LeBron teams than he has ever had in the past. And that has not been the way to team build around LeBron successfully in the past. But at least a good chunk of that has been at LeBron's behest and has been LeBron's doing. And I think some of that may have been him recognizing his basketball mortality a few years back and recognizing if I'm going to age as gracefully as I hope to, then I'm going to need some of that creation load taken from me. And he is going to have to switch to turn into a play finisher in some respects, as opposed to
or
a play
at least
creator.
a connective tissue.
Sure. I mean, I think that's still down the line, but yes. So I just wanted to point out that it's not like, Magic kind of stood on the mountaintop and yelled it in the first year about how it was his great idea to get all of these,
the grand experiment,
right? To get, Rondo and Lance Stevenson and all of these guys that were going to dribble and create. But a lot of it has been what LeBron has been searching for.
Fine, but it's fair to point out that context. But
yeah, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying
at some point somebody
successful.
needs to stand up and be like, "Hey guys, we've been trying this for like 4 years. Can we just go back to the thing that won us a championship? Can we just try that?" And we didn't get that this last offseason when he had less impact on the team around him than in prior years. Carlo, did you have another question or another topic or an Orca fact?
Or you can yell at me.
Or you can yell at Aaron.
You can yell at me for ruining the Lakers. You can yell at me.
Nah. If Rob was in this conference call or some in this podcast, maybe I would yell at someone. But
what would you say?
I'm just playing.
No. Come on with it. You can open the door now. Walk through.
Nah. But no. There's one thing that I'm kind of curious about to see what your guys' take. It's at the end of the game against the Sixers. LeBron didn't even ask for the ball at all. Like he didn't command it. He was just like he saw Russ. He saw Russ against Embiid, and he was like, "Oh yeah, go ahead." Like there's a lot of time there. There's a whole lot because I think Russ took the ball straight from backcourt to he crossed the court with the ball.
Yeah, I think the play started with 11 or 12 seconds left.
Yeah, and then LeBron just stood there. And he saw Embiid against Russ. Like, no, man. Like, there's a few like big men that Russ can still go against, but Joel Embiid is not one of them. And I'm just curious what your guys' take,
especially
on why
if Joel Embiid is allowed to grab his wrist and like guide him to the basket.
But still, in my opinion, like it shouldn't have came down to that.
Oh, for sure.
Like, LeBron is being guarded by Tobias Harris. Like, come on, dude. Like, why didn't he ask for the ball? Do you guys have any idea of why? Because there's still a lot of time left.
I think it was kind of understood that LeBron was going to get the ball. I think, and Ham talked about this afterwards, saying that he was comfortable with Russ going against Embiid. And I don't think I think it's fine if you want to probe and
disagree, Darvin.
If you want to, it's my issue with all of that was as I said earlier, Russ got the ball with like 11 or 12 seconds left and tried to go after Embiid, and it didn't work. And he kind of had to reset with 5 seconds or so
where you
left.
call the timeout.
At that point, you got to call the timeout because you got nothing going. And at that point, you still have time to go draw something up and get something. In which case, you can say, LeBron, you're making this decision. Either you're shooting it or you're finding the guy that's shooting it. So my disagreement is with not calling a timeout there.
The other part of it too, it kind of reminded me of like LeBron will do this every so often with guys who he doesn't think are getting the message, and I think the communication between him and Russ has wavered. Is how I'll put it. But sometimes he'll kind of passive aggressively say, you know what, make your own mistake, and he'll kind of back off. He did this with Kyrie a bunch. And he did this early on when he got back to Cleveland. He just kind of did the whole like, I'll let you guys make your mistakes. Whenever you're ready to start winning, you can come and we can start working together. And I think that's one approach to take with younger players who are eventually going to listen. But with somebody like Russ, who thinks at every moment that he is the best player on every basketball court that he steps on, he's never going to get that message. So I do think I agree with Aaron that at the end of the day, that was kind of on Ham not calling a timeout. At the very least on the reset, I personally would have called it as soon as it looked like they weren't in transition anymore, and as soon as it looked like Russ was going to challenge Embiid. That is not a matchup he's going to win at this stage of his career, especially against a defense that like is all looking at him, right? Like it's one thing if it's like a 4-on-3 kind of thing and the defense is kind of moving around, but the defense was pretty much set when he went into his attack, and I think it was it Niang? I think it was Niang who actually got the credit for the block on that play. And the reason he got the credit for the block was because he was sitting there waiting because of like the stuff we talked about earlier. It was, I don't know the lineup that was actually out there on the court, but I would imagine Schroeder was probably out there, or I would imagine, maybe Brown was probably out there, and there isn't anybody on the Lakers team right now, especially currently, who aren't hurt, that like the defense is saying, we are not moving from this guy's side ever. Like there is nobody on the Lakers roster who draws that kind of attention. And this is why I wish the Lakers would go into more 2-man game between LeBron and Russ, because that's how you generate downhill movement from those guys. You're not going to do it from a standstill where you have a whole bunch of help defense who don't care about the shooters that they're currently matched up on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to repeat myself. I don't hate the Russ going at Embiid on the perimeter. I don't hate it. I do. Especially when Embiid is allowed to like forearm check him. Yeah. I don't hate it. But
didn't they say that wasn't a foul?
Once
they said they said it wasn't a foul. That's what the NBA said.
Once
fantastic.
Like once Embiid's one of the best defenders in the league. He's not great at moving his feet. So like the idea of it, I can see in Russ's head why he thinks he has an advantage there. But once that first drive gets stifled, it's time to do something else.
You think
Gavin pieced out?
Russ,
I was about to pull him on stage.
You think Prime Russ would beat Joel Embiid?
Right? Prime?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, prime for sure. We're just like 5
years
removed.
In the NBA, especially with guys who are that athletic, like, and reliant on their athleticism as Russ has been, going from top 0.1% athlete, even by NBA standards, going from that to 95th percentile athlete in the NBA, which Russ probably still is, it makes a world of difference. It's the milliseconds. Everybody is so good. It's those little milliseconds of advantage that he can't create anymore. Yeah, he probably would have cooked Embiid, if it was Embiid now and Russ 5 years ago.
Probably. Jeez.
Yeah,
and all of that's in Russ's head because Russ still thinks he's that guy.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest factor here that the Lakers keep running into. It's that like for some reason, well, not for some reason. I like this is
we
how
go to
it goes
overtime, by the way, in Boston, Golden State, Boston 2 overtime.
This is where like Phil Jackson famously said, the player that he least was interested in coaching was a star who is no longer a star, because that star is always going to think that like this is I still have it. And that shit, like there are still moments where I walk outside and I'm like, man, I feel pretty good right now.
We all
This
saw
feels
that
great.
Euro stumble. We
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that's what
But
happens.
by the way,
like I went
especially-
into that. I was like, man, I feel pretty good. Like, let me just go right, left, and then yeah.
But here's the
And
thing,
then
especially-
then reality kicks in. He's like, no, actually, you're round.
It's even more difficult though, right? Like, yes, a star who still thinks he's a star that's no longer produces like a star has to be maddening to coach. But especially someone who has the ball all the time, and especially someone who has the ball all the time, and their game is based on athleticism and not skill, right? If it was like whatever 10 years from now, when Klay Thompson probably shouldn't be playing NBA basketball anymore, he'll still be able to come off a pin down, and he can still think he's a star and may not be a star anymore, and he'll still terrify defenses.
Yeah,
those guys are easier to age gracefully than guys that have the ball all the time and their game is based on athleticism.
Yeah, that's why I'm always fascinated of what will Steph Curry look when he's like 40 on the minimum contract. Oh my goodness.
He'll probably look like he's on the PGA tour, because I imagine he will be at 6 years.
I don't know.
No, I think Steph can play as long as he wants, clearly.
Oh yeah.
And he can probably score 20 points a game because he's in such great shape, just shooting jumpers in perpetuity. He'll be Bill Burtka's age, just getting shots, just getting buckets. I don't know. I guess depending on how the next few years go. But my prediction is that Steph will play golf professionally.
Oh, it'll be interesting.
He's good, man.
He's good.
I've watched him play.
No, he's good. He's legit. Oh, I have a question.
Holy moly!
Yeah.
The best TV show on or the best show on TV. Holy moly!
I have no idea what that is.
Oh no! Really?
Is it a golf show? Is it like a reality show?
It's like the mini golf show that he does, and Joe Tess from ESPN, and the guy from The Hangover, and a whole bunch of other goofy movies.
That has to be on Golf Channel, and probably
no,
it's on
ABC. It's a Disney thing.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
It's on Hulu.
Never heard of it.
I have another question though. For you,
all right.
both of you
What's up, Carlo?
So since we're at the theme where we're a few games away from LeBron unbelievably passing Kareem. Oh my god, it's still unbelievable to think
February
about.
7th. I've been saying it for like 3 weeks. I'm predicting February 7th. The Thunder game.
Unbelievable that somebody will actually pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But in that theme, I know that basketball has changed, and a lot of these young guys will probably have a great chance of beating LeBron at some point. But in terms of current players that are close or in the same time, there's no one in the same timeline as LeBron, are close to LeBron in terms of a timeline in their careers, like KD, Steph. Is there anyone who has a legit shot, you think, at beating LeBron?
No.
At this point?
No.
Even KD?
No. KD not gotten hurt, with the Achilles in the finals and missed whatever, it's like 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, had to miss all those games because of COVID also. I think he probably would have passed Kareem. I don't think he would have passed LeBron, though. I would say that if you ask me of any current player who has the best chance of passing LeBron, I would say it's Luka, but I doubt it. I would say it's Luka who has like a 5% chance. I think that's probably the best chance.
Luka needs to get in shape. He's at the age now where it doesn't really matter. Like he can still be dominant at this age or whatever, but at some point he's going to have to like get more serious about conditioning. The thing about LeBron is he has played he's played 20 years and he's probably been in the top 5 NBA players for 16 of those years, 17 maybe,
somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like that is unheard of. Like even Kareem, at the end of Kareem's career, he was scoring 14 points a game. Like it was
right.
not what
it's
it was not what LeBron is doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's elite ability and elite ability for as long as LeBron is doing it. Like I think
it will not happen again.
Yeah, I'm not going to go so far as to say like it will not, because I do think maybe 20 years from now we'll get another run like that. But in terms of players currently going, I don't see it, man. It's what LeBron is doing and what LeBron has been doing now for 2 decades is not something that we're ever going to see again.
I agree with
It's insane.
I would say
Like,
Luca's the guy.
I
The
know
only
it's insane. The
I don't-
consistency too. The consistency of like how he like his consistency is like way beyond unimaginable. Like it you can't that does not happen at all. Like it's so
yeah,
hard.
he
to
scored
think.
at least 10 points in every game longer
Over
than you've been
1,000
alive,
games.
Carlo.
Over 1,000 games, I think now. He's way past Michael's record. He's legit the number
There are
one.
people who like do things for a living that don't require that level of physical aptitude, who aren't as great at what they do for as long as LeBron has been great at what he has done. Think about like think about like the
accountants
greatest
that wear out before.
Yeah, like think about think about like Yo-Yo Ma, right? Like just think of like just like the best in the world at what they do. You never see somebody be that good as good as LeBron has been at basketball for as long as LeBron has been that great at basketball. It's just not going to happen again. It's wild. It's insane.
I think a big part of it is like transition from being a physical player to like mental. He always talks about.
But he's also physical. Like he's
no,
still...
I know, but
the highest basketball IQ and the most physically gifted.
Back then, like LeBron 5 years ago.
Ooh, that's a good one. Gavin with Nolan Ryan was a good one. Nolan Ryan actually retired. Fun fact about Nolan Ryan, he actually retired not because he didn't have it in terms of stuff anymore. He retired because he was afraid that he was throwing so fast and his vision had gone out on him that he wasn't going to be able to react to a comebacker. So it wasn't a matter of him not having it anymore. And you look at his stats, he still very clearly had it. He was concerned that like he wasn't, whether it was reflexes or vision, which like vision, given how hard he was throwing, is kind of terrifying for batters. But like vision and reflexes, he was concerned he didn't have it anymore. And yeah, that's the closest thing.
Tom Brady
are the closest. One. Yeah,
Tom Brady's another one. But like
that's
the physical demands on quarterbacks and pitchers is nowhere near what it is on NBA players.
Yeah. Well, especially now, like in the NFL, it's flag football for white quarterbacks. It's just it's a different game.
No. It's not about white or black. It's about the ones that run. They don't get the. It's because they run. It's not because they're black.
Yeah,
Brady threw like
somehow
passes.
Somehow Josh Allen doesn't. Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
he threw 66 passes on Monday night. I think 66. If I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
That's
Brady.
Insane. Yeah, that's insane, dude.
I mean, Brady's going to be a Raider, right? Like I think Brady. There's like MGM already has a deal with TB12.
I don't know about breaking up with a Brazilian supermodel that makes more money than you do to go play what we just saw. That is not like.
I don't think he'll end it that way though. Like to come back for just one season after losing every.
You think it's gonna be? You think next year's gonna go better than this? You think he's gonna get better?
Oh yeah, he's gonna look way better on the Niners. Look at that. Well, yeah, he's gonna look way better on the Niners.
No, thank you. 2-3 years ago, I did want that, and Aaron Rodgers. I'll take Aaron Rodgers next year.
You want
Kirk
Brady?
Cousins? Do you want Kirkland Cousins?
No, thank you.
Are you interested?
I also
please
never mind.
Please take Cousins.
Cousins
no, thank you. No, thank you. You can have Jimmy G if you want.
Pretty please.
Yeah, Trey Lance for Kirk Cousins.
I just want a quarterback who is capable of like a 15-yard sprint. Just one time. I just
Lamar
Vikings,
Jackson.
Please,
Lamar Jackson.
That's a fascinating one.
Oh,
Jackson not getting the contract that he wants and then not playing for the rest of the year. I'm not questioning the legitimacy of his injury, but if that was like a contractual move on his part, well done, sir. I respect it.
I don't want to speculate like that because it's like dehumanizing athletes, and I'm big on like not doing that. But man, there's some going on down there. There's some going on down there in Baltimore. I don't want to speculate about that, but
I'm saying it's the right move. It's kind of like those athletes, those athletes like in college who like get dogged for not playing in their bowl game at the end of a year. It's like no, man, you have your entire career to prepare for.
It's a life-changing move. Like, go for it. If you think it's safest for your future NFL career to not play a bowl game, like Don't.
It's funny.
Stay
My
home.
wife just moved recently to management, and they were having.
Oh, I
this,
thought
like,
you
team.
were going to say she moved like to a different
Yeah,
location.
she and Giselle, they live together. But
Tried to get you to give up the podcast, and you just couldn't do it.
she like I will never log off. But like she moved into management, and one of the conversations that their team was having is, how can we keep employees in the company? And I was part of it. I'm moving eventually into more management too. It's just like pay them guaranteed salaries. Like that's it. So like if you're the NFL and you want Lamar Jackson to play more often, or if you're a little nervous about like this injury situation, give him a contract, give him a guaranteed contract. And I guarantee you he'd have healed up. I think he'd have been fine.
So we were talking about how the Gobert trade destroyed the whole trade negotiations and stuff. Do you think Deshaun Watson's guaranteed contract ruined the contract negotiations for QBs in the NFL? Because Lamar wants that whole 9 yards, like the one that Deshaun Watson got.
All athletes should, man. Especially Lamar Jackson playing the way that he does without the protection that other quarterbacks have, because he's a running quarterback. Like those, it's legitimately. You talked about the dehumanizing of athletes or whatever. There is no worse dehumanization than NFL players of all athletes not having guaranteed contracts. There is nothing worse in professional sports. In that sport, those guys like people were like cheering for Buffalo because they were like, yeah, we're going to guarantee DeMar Hamlin's contract.
You should. Why isn't it?
This is not something we should be high-fiving you for. You shouldn't be like patting yourself on the back for that. That is not something he should ever have worried about. But all right, we're going to go ahead and call it here. And another fun conversation. Thank you very much, Alexis. Thank you very much, Carlo, for hopping on when you guys did. Thank you, everybody who was active in the comments here. And thank you, everybody who have been tuning in for the entirety of this frustrating Lakers season. Thank you very much, Aaron, for hopping on as well. If you enjoyed this conversation and want more of it, Aaron and I are going to be talking tomorrow on The Hook. So until then...
it's more antagonistic, but yeah.
Yeah, little. So I've... All right, I'm going to tease this. You guys ready for a professional radio tease?
Yeah. Here you go.
I don't like to do the reporter thing, but every time I have a conversation with people around the league about what the Lakers are getting ready to maybe do in the trade deadline or what they're looking to do in the offseason, I want to throw stuff. So if you guys want to hear more of that kind of conversation, get ready for The Hook tomorrow. How about that? Oh, Aaron, come back.
I'm gonna start drinking again.